People of God, welcome again to part 2 of the military under a spiritual command. We are moving in the same theme of the spiritual activism. As the spiritual activist of God, I presented to you last time in part 1 where I was talking about the Roman centurion soldier, the general who went to Jesus asking that his servant who is under his command be healed. And Jesus honored his level of faith because he understood that though he was a general, but still he had a command or an authority to submit under, though he had that highly ranked dignitary level of command as a general. I talked about Naaman, the Syrian general, who went all the way to Israel and got healed by Prophet Elisha. And he went and washed himself in the river 7 times, being commanded by a prophet, an army general who had a command. But he understood that there was also another higher command, another level of rank of authority above him. I explained that in scriptures. Today in part 2, I want to explain about a different level of command in the spirit, but we are still on the same theme of the spiritual command that is above the earthly ranks, using the military, which is the higher rank of command over any other power that you can ever imagine on this earth. At a certain point of time, Jesus is ready to be crucified. He has been captured and taken among his disciples. And the people have to choose between Jesus and Barnabas. But before all that happened, Pilate, Pontius Pilate, who was the king during that time, even attempted to release Jesus. But because Jesus was destined to be crucified so that he dies for the people, Jesus responds to Pilate saying, even if you had the power to release me, you would not. What Jesus is trying to tell Pilate here is that even if you have power and authority, you will not release me unless that power came from above. Jesus is simplifying and explaining to Pilate that the only authority that can release him at this point of time is the authority from above. And that is if that authority from above has approved the release of Jesus. And Jesus further says, and for this cause I was born. And which cause is that? To die on the cross. Jesus preached and he demonstrated miracles at a time he was operating in the Roman society, which was a very dangerous society, a very political society, which Caesar was the president. Of course, he was the king, but during this era we have presidents. There are a few nations that still have kings, but during that time, kings were the title that was more common and popular. And before Jesus is even crucified, he is whipped 40 times by the soldiers. And when Jesus is being whipped 40 times by the soldiers, you would assume that Jesus does not have power. But earlier on, before Jesus is even presented to Pontius Pilate, Jesus tells Peter to put back the sword, and he hints a spiritual word to Peter of wisdom, saying, do you not know that I have power to call unto my Father to give me a legion of angels? What Jesus is trying to say there, after being captured at the garden, where he was praying, he was doing his last prayer before being captured, is that he is explaining to Peter that there is another level of authority, and that level of authority has got its own army of angels. People, there is another government in the spirit, and that government in the spirit has its own army, has its own troops. The same government and the same army that was able to push and shove Lucifer out from heaven before he fell on earth, that government exists. It is the government that is above any military government in the physical. And Jesus is finally crucified. He is now on the cross. It took another level of wisdom inside one soldier. One soldier goes and kneels before the cross after a sign of darkness had covered the whole country, the whole nation. After certain miracles that happened, when Jesus had released his breath, when he had released his spirit, and when Jesus had died on the cross, one soldier was able to go and kneel down before the cross, and he confessed, saying, surely this man was the Son of God. That soldier understood at that very point of time that there was another rank in the spirit. There was another command in the spirit. I'm not talking about a physical command. I'm not talking about a physical instruction. I'm not talking about a president. I'm not talking about a king. But he understood that there was another government, there was another general that could give instructions, that had power more than the power and authority that he had served under as a soldier. People of God, there is another rank and there is another level of command in the spirit. For 21 days, the prince of Persia wrestled and made sure that the angel Gabriel that had been sent with a message to Daniel, who had been praying for 21 days, could not receive a message. And the issues that Daniel was praying about concerned the people that were meant to be delivered by God. And before Daniel was even elevated in spirit to become one of the judges, one of the governors who served with the king, Daniel prayed for 21 days, but the angel Gabriel was held in spirit by another angel, a fallen angel, that represents another government of Persia. Those angels that operate in the principality realms of the spirit, they represent forces and powers that give authority to military commands on the physical realm. And after 21 days, for Gabriel to pass through, he was given that passage by Michael, who is the angel of war. All powers and forces of military are in the spirit. They are not in the physical realm. They operate in the spirit and they control the natural physical operations of any order, any command that can be given by any rank in any military. People of God, there is a military command that is spiritual, and there is a military command that is physical. A military command that is physical, that is not associated with the spiritual, that is designed by God, is abusive and is against human rights. It is the only command that we are allowed by God to fight against. And we have a way of fighting against that command. And the only way we can fight against that command is in the prayer room. You can't win a war like that outside the prayer room. As Daniel prayed and fasted for 21 days, so is everyone that is born to be a spiritual political activist. You fight your wars in the prayer room. I hope people now understand the difference between the ranks in the spirit, the ranks in the physical, the ranks in the spiritual, the ranks that determine the generals, the ranks that determine the ambassadors of God who are called to operate in the spirit.